And Mamta Banerjee, who's very difficult to make friends with, she's a good friend of mine.
But they say that you are dangerous both as an enemy and friend.
Yes.
What is it about Dr. Swamy that scares people on all sides of the aisle? The treasury benches, the opposition, your party, that party, their party, everybody.
In Indian politics, people are comfortable with you if you are blackmailable. And I can't be blackmailed. That's the real problem why everybody is scared. How do you control this guy when he has no known vices? I have some vices, for example. I like hot food, I like Chinese food and so on, but that's about the limit. But generally, politicians are controlled by some some scandal that they are wanting to hide or something like that. And when you become uncontrollable in our political society, people become nervous.
Talking about scandals, I heard you recently learned something new after years and decades of crusade against corruption. That it is possible for Indian politicians to be able to do things in the government while being in opposition. while you have fought very valiantly against Mrs. Gandhi, you made life miserable for Jayalalitha during one particular term, and while she passed away, but you did legally win that battle, you made life miserable for D. Raja, Kanimai, etc. Can India say you have been neutralized by a fellow lawyer politician from Tamil Nadu, an economist as he claims himself, a former finance minister in any case? Have you been defeated while you are in power, your party is in power, and Chidambaram is in opposition? Has he outwitted you?
Well, he has no wits, so he can't outwit me anyway. But the fact of the matter is that he is about to go to jail. The charge sheet has just been filed. I think the one example of the battle was that he used his friends in our party, and he has some, not many, to
Could
see...
you name them? Why don't you?
No, too early. There was this massacre of officers that took place a few days ago. And in that, the most crucial officer was an officer in the Enforcement Directorate. And Chidambaram and his friend wanted him to be suspended. And then I made one tweet. I said, if this officer is suspended, then I will go to court and withdraw all my cases of corruption. And because this government doesn't appear to be serious about corruption. The suspension was to take place at midnight. At 11:30, Prime Minister being told about this tweet, and obviously didn't know that this suspension was going to take place, immediately ordered nothing of the kind would happen. And so the next day the charge sheet was filed, and it's only a matter of time before Mr. Chidambaram goes to jail. Now it's unstoppable.
You can respond in any manner you like to each of these questions and answers wholeheartedly. If you also succeed, I say if, in giving Sonia Gandhi ji a Lalu Prasad moment, do you foresee that happening? And should that happen, what would make you happier, sending Chidambaram to jail or sending Sonia Gandhi to jail?
Well, that's apples and oranges question. I think both should be there. I think a good part of the Congress Party's working committee should be in Tihar jail so they can have a meeting of the Congress working inside jail. Actually, in the National Herald case, Sonia Gandhi was arrested in my presence in the Patiala House Court.
Technically, is the bail...
Yeah. No, I could have objected to the bail, but I didn't object. I said that she should be convicted and sent. Sending somebody to jail on the grounds she might tamper with evidence or she might run away I think it's an unnecessary deprivation of your freedom when you have not been convicted. So, but then I said she must give a bond. You can't take her personal bond, that is a personal assurance. So she paid 50,000 rupees as bond, and that she should also give a surety that in case she runs away, who do we catch? So she brought that poor man looking like a goat, sacrificial goat, Mr. A.K. Anthony. And she she knows that she's on a short fuse. The only major step was my making a submission on oath on why she, her son, and 4 other congressmen should be prosecuted in the National Herald case. And that is over now. I have to subject myself to cross-examination by her lawyers. That should be over in December. So January, the trial will start, and it won't last more than 2 months. So I'm hoping that before the election, we'll see her inside.
You have obviously fought Srimati Gandhi, Indira Gandhi,
Yeah.
that is, on the issue of emergency very strongly, beautifully, and yet you are a very good friend of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi.
Yes.
And then you turn against Sonia Gandhi. Can you tell us what was going on personally within that we do not know of? Was it political? Was it ideological? Was it something
No.
more personal?
No. In the case of Mrs. Gandhi, she was very pro-Soviet. And the Soviet Union was always against me because I was anti-communist. And she, therefore, was always being egged on by then ministers like Kumar Mangalam and D.P. Dhar and so on, that we must do something. And thereby I lost my professorship at IIT, which of course I later won after 22 years of battle in the court.
And got the salary for doing
And
nothing.
that salary at 18% interest, so I may have got a lot of pocket money. But the fact is that Rajiv Gandhi was a totally transparent person. And his biggest mistake was to marry Sonia Gandhi. Because
That's one thing on which it seems you and Indira Gandhi perhaps agree.
Yes. In fact, I'll tell you an interesting tidbit. I was teaching at Harvard when 1965, when Mrs. Gandhi was just a minister in Lal Bahadur Shastri's government. So she came to give a lecture at a neighboring university called Brandeis University. And she was told by the embassy that I had become a figure because I was, at that time, in 65 was also that kind of period, when I became the first Asian to become a professor in the economics department. So she invited me for tea. And when I went to meet her, she complained to me about her son, Rajiv. And she wanted me to go to London and explain to him that studying is more important than going after some blankety-blank woman. And she was very worried. And then later on, and I'm telling you all this are based on complete facts, and I'm willing to give them to anybody if they send me an email. Later on, she had to agree to the marriage because Sonia Gandhi's father was a soldier in Hitler's army. And Hitler went to attack Russia. He was taken prisoner. And in jail, he was converted to a KGB agent. This is all documented. And Sonia Gandhi also received payments from the KGB. So the Russians were the ones who prevailed on Sonia Gandhi on Indira Gandhi to accept her. And I don't think she ever really accepted her. So Rajiv Gandhi, whatever the circumstances, maybe he was, too innocent or what, but he married her. And towards the end, they were not on very good terms. And he was a different person, but Mrs. Gandhi by then had become a little browned off with the Soviets because when the Janata came to power, the Soviets switched to our side and abandoned her. So she never forgot that. And so towards the last 2 years of Indira Gandhi's life, she and I were good friends. We used to exchange jokes about, and she told me honestly, but for my activities in the United States, she would not have been under pressure to call the elections. Because her biggest mistake was to call the election, thinking she would win it, and she was defeated. So that's the thing. I think the problem I have generally have had with Nehru women, but Nehru men, even Sanjay Gandhi, I had pretty good working relations with them. I mean, after the defeat and they're coming back. So it's not got anything to do with gender. It's basically treating everybody equally. And I believe in gender equality.
But gender is an issue.
Yeah.
Can we hold you singularly responsible, as you claim to have denied India a women prime ministership of Sonia Gandhi and instead given us an economist for 10 years? So we'll blame you for both.
As far as Sonia Gandhi's matter is concerned, these are all documentable. In 2004, May 14th, the results came out. On 2015, she presented the then President Abdul Kalam with 340 signatures. Each MP writing, I, so-and-so, elected from so-and-so, hereby propose the name of Sonia Gandhi as Prime Minister of India. And there was also a letter from her as an MP, I, Sonia Gandhi, elected from Raebareli, hereby propose Sonia Gandhi for Prime Minister. So this propaganda that she sacrificed it, she was never interested, she was forced, all rubbish. So, and it looked, and the TV was scrolling that 5 o'clock she will be administered the oath of office. So at 12:30, I was eating lunch at my home, and Abdul Kalam, who's also a Tamil and from my neighboring district of Madurai, I mean, he was from Ramanathapuram, he called me and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm having lunch." He said, "Come right away." I said, "Can I finish my lunch?" He said, "No. You come in 15 minutes or don't come." So I knew that it must be very, I was so rushed. And then he told me that I had written him a letter. I didn't think that he would take notice of it. I had written a letter upon the elections results coming that Sonia Gandhi, under the laws of India, cannot be Prime Minister. And the reason I gave was that in Section 5 of the Citizenship Act, it states that any foreigner becoming a citizen of India is subject to the same conditions imposed on an Indian becoming a citizen of that country. So in Italy, if you become a citizen, an Indian becomes an Italian citizen, he or she cannot contest even elections, leave alone prime ministership. So therefore, I said it applies to her, and the conditions apply to her, and she can't be. I must say, to the credit of Abdul Kalam, he, after having invited her for 5 o'clock, at 3:30 in the afternoon, he wrote another letter. I've got this complaint from me, and that he will have it looked at by the Election Commission of India, and then only he can administer an oath. But if you still want to form a government, then your party wants to form a government, you come tomorrow, not today. And she then took Manmohan Singh, and then they had to do the process all again. That's how I stopped her. And she never, of course, forgiving me doesn't arise. I'm a Swami in my own right. I don't need anybody's forgiveness. But she made the life of Abdul Kalam miserable for the rest of the time. She refused to allow him to be nominated for the second term. And this is a fact that she didn't. And of course, the drama went on that she had given up and so on. And they're ruling party, so they used the media for 10 years to propagate this. This is the truth.
So I'd like to ask you now to reflect on two people that are often compared in Indian narratives because obviously they're seen as strong leaders, Srimati Indira Gandhi and Mr. Narendra Modi. The opposites on both sides have said they're dictatorial, they are intolerant, they're squeezing the media, they're making life very difficult for those who are voices of dissent, whether it's in academics, whether it's in cultural life and so on and so forth. So if you compare the sense of loss of democracy leading up to the emergency and thereafter, and the mood in the country since 2014, from the eyes and perspective of those who feel aggrieved by this government, how would you compare the two? Was Srimati Gandhi or Mr. Narendra Modi a dictator? And who can go on to be maybe a equally difficult dictator?
I'm a living example of the difference. In her party, nobody can talk like I talk. But in my party, I talk against ministers, I can talk against police.
But only you can. You are not, you're the exception that proves the rule.
No, but there's no exception in the Congress party. How
You
come?
get away with things in the court, lawyers have told me, which
Yeah, that's true.
the
Saying
Supreme
things
Court
to
you
the
get
judge.
away with. So leave Dr. Subramanian Swamy and the subtle art of getting away with murder. But
Or you want me to make somebody else stand up and speak against Modi and still get away? I mean, you want to... I think one example is enough. That if I can, and I'm supposed to be a member of the National Executive of the party, I'm a member of Parliament, and I say I've taken a stand in the GST, for example. The whole Parliament voted for the GST, without exception. Only one vote was against the GST on the grounds that the cyber brain of the GST is the GSTN, which prepared the computer program for processing all the data. That was owned by two private banks, HDFC and ICICI. I said, this is wrong. These are sensitive data, secret data, and therefore the cyber brain should be a government company. And I stood, and nobody supported me. And you would not believe it, 6 months later, Modi did exactly that. He converted that from a private limited company to a government-owned company. So how do you explain that? I have asked Raghu Ram Rajan to be sacked. Obama phoned up Modi and said he should be allowed to continue. It's good for Indo-US
you
relations.
think Barack Obama tried to put pressure to ensure Raghu Ram
Not
Rajan?
pressure, he was trying to give a suggestion. We don't consider that as pressure. But Modi didn't agree. He was convinced by my argument and he sacked him. I sacked many more. His favorite officer in Gujarat was a man called Hasmukh Kadia. I'm running a huge campaign against him. He has been denied now cabinet secretary position. He may not get any position as soon as his term retires. How can you call this man a dictator?
Now I'll go to the topic as on the backdrop, as you see, economy in a tailspin. You have very clearly come out and said, your good friend Sri Arun Jaitley ji, the finance minister of India, was the worst decision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You should have respected the people of Amritsar a little more and understood their verdict. Instead, you create a expectation across the country that under Narendra Modi, growth will happen, jobs will come, petrol prices will come down, rupee will, you throw 30 rupees and you get $1 in exchange and so on and so forth. And then you make Arun Jaitley the finance minister as per you. And that led to a tailspin. In fact, we are in you have failed as a government. So my question to you is this. What are the 2 or 3 things Arun Jaitley has done that are wrong or led to this? And if you were made the